You know that feeling too well. It's that nervous flicker in your chest when bills pile up, when you see someone else succeed and wonder why it seems effortless for them while you're stuck in the same place, spinning your wheels. I've been there myself, sitting at the edge of frustration, trying to will myself into abundance, but feeling like no matter how much I begged, pleaded, or hoped, the universe just wasn't listening. I remember the desperation clearly. It's like standing in a cold shower, shivering and hoping that somehow the warmth will come, but instead, all you get is more cold water hitting your face. That's when I realized something wasn't working the way I thought it was. I was approaching the universe with a plea born out of fear, out of lack, out of a desperate need for reassurance that I'd be okay. It's so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? We ask for money, sometimes loudly, sometimes silently, yet our voice trembles with doubt. We pray, "Please, I need money." But deep down, the fear that it won't come, that I'll remain stuck, whispers louder than the hope. I used to think that just wishing hard enough, or repeating affirmations in the mirror, was enough. I imagined that if I visualized my bank balance soaring, the money would suddenly appear out of thin air. But nothing changed. The numbers stayed the same. The bills kept coming. The frustration grew. And then I started noticing something strange, something I can now see was a game changer. Every time I approached asking for money with that underlying tone of fear, that desperate energy, I never got what I truly wanted. I'd get a paycheck maybe, but it always seemed just enough to cover what I owed. It was like I was pushing away abundance with every weak please. But as soon as I shifted, as I changed my approach, when I started asking with confidence, with trust, everything began to change. It was as if the universe responded to my new frequency, to my new vibration. It's not just about what we ask for, it's about how we ask. That subtle, almost unconscious shift from begging to believing, from fear to trust, from scarcity to abundance. And once I recognized that, I saw that I wasn't just asking for money. I was asking out of a place of desperation, a place that told the universe I didn't believe it could deliver. I learned that the real secret wasn't just in the words or the words alone. It was in the energy behind those words. And that's a profound realization, isn't it? I've come to understand that the way we ask matters because it reveals what we truly believe about ourselves and the universe. And right now, I want you to really think about this. How are you asking for your needs to be met? Are you doing it with trust or with fear? Do you speak in terms that declare confidence in abundance? Or do your words and emotions reveal a sense of doubt? The truth is, the universe isn't playing favorites. It's simply responding to your dominant vibration, your feelings, your energy, your belief. For years, I thought that money was something I had to chase, something I had to struggle for. But then I realized that the universe responds to our inner states, not just our outer requests. If you're approaching your desires from a place of fear, scarcity, or anxiety, that's exactly what you're going to attract more of. But if you learn to change that perspective, if you learn to ask with genuine confidence, then miraculous things begin to happen. I've experienced it firsthand. I've watched my circumstances shift when I aligned my inner world with a feeling of abundance, of gratitude, of knowing that what I desire is already mine. So I ask you now, honestly, how do you ask for money? With a trembling voice of doubt, or with a steady, trusting belief? Do you plead and beg, or do you command the universe to bring what's already yours? Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't respond to our words alone. It responds to the energy behind those words, to what we truly believe deep inside. And once I understood that, I realized I had all the power to change my reality simply by shifting my mindset and my emotions. This is the game changer I want to share with you. I want to show you that your approach, your energy, can transform your results. That even now, amidst the chaos or scarcity, there's a part of you that can flip the switch and start asking, not from a place of desperation, but from confidence. Because that's when everything begins to change. That's when abundance flows effortlessly, and you start living the life you truly desire, one of joy, ease, and prosperity. Not because the universe suddenly owed you something, but because you finally believed it was your natural state to receive. Once I finally understood that my approach could dramatically influence the flow of my experiences, I realized I'd been operating under a silent but powerful blueprint. That blueprint was driven by a specific vibration I was sending out, either one rooted in doubt or one rooted in conviction. It's like tuning a radio. If I tuned into signals of scarcity and worry, all I received was static and frustration. But when I deliberately adjusted the dial to vibrate with confidence and certainty, clarity emerged, and clear channels began to flow. It reminded me of how a musician hears the tune before the stage, how they cultivate their craft by constantly refining their tune until it resonates perfectly. I learned that our minds are akin to that instrument, capable of producing symphonies of abundance or dirges of lack, depending on the notes we choose to focus on. Building on this, consider the power of language in shaping your reality. Words are not mere sounds. They are powerful manifesting tools. When you speak about your needs, do you do it with the assumption that they are already fulfilled, or do you voice them with a heavy sense of doubt? I discovered that how I phrased my declarations made all the difference. Instead of saying, "I hope I can get more," I began to affirm, "I am attracting opportunities and resources now." That subtle shift transforms the act of speaking into a broadcast of bounty, a declaration that abundance is already on its way to me. It's like planting seeds. The language you use is the soil in which growth occurs. The richer it is with faith and certainty, the more vibrant and rapid the blossoming. Another crucial layer involves the notion of choice, the conscious decision to see your circumstances differently. For a long time, I saw life as a series of obstacles, a constant battle to overcome scarcity. That mindset kept me emotionally tethered to struggle, which only attracted more moments of lack. But when I decided to shift my perspective, when I really committed to seeing opportunity where I once saw lack, the landscape of my experience changed. It's similar to choosing to focus on the open sky instead of the looming storm clouds. Recognize that by repeatedly directing your attention toward what you desire rather than what's missing, you rewire your thought patterns. This mental realignment is akin to steering a ship. The more intentional you're steering, the closer you get to your desired destination. Every time you redirect attention away from limitations and toward potential, you reinforce a new vibration, a new way of being. Another perspective I embraced was the importance of emotional anchoring. It's not enough to simply repeat positive phrases or visualize desired results. Feelings are the fuel that propel those visions into manifestation. Think of your feelings as the current that carries a boat downstream. If your emotional state is filled with fear, frustration, or impatience, it's comparable to trying to paddle upstream with a heavy anchor attached. But when you cultivate genuine feelings of gratitude, joy, and expectancy, it's like removing the anchor and allowing your vessel to flow easily with the current. I found that I could actively cultivate these feelings by recalling moments when I felt truly abundant, times when I felt appreciated, successful, or deeply trustful that everything was aligning perfectly. This emotional calibration creates a resonance that draws more experiences of similar vibration. Now, consider how this applies when you're faced with immediate challenges. When bills are due and anxiety starts to creep in, it can feel as if you're fighting against an unyielding tide. Yet, what if you turn that tide by deliberately shifting your focus away from the scarcity and anchoring yourself consciously in appreciation? Even if the situation hasn't changed on the outside, your internal state can shift instantaneously. By doing so, you send out a powerful signal that resonates differently, one that invites change rather than resistance. This isn't about ignoring reality, but about choosing how to respond emotionally despite circumstances. It's about creating a mental and emotional space that allows solutions and opportunities to flow into your life naturally. Furthermore, recognizing that the pace of your manifestation depends on how you align your inner world can instantly transform your patience. Sometimes, I get caught in a cycle of impatience, questioning when things would shift. But I realize that true alignment requires trust and a relaxed expectancy, not forcing or obsessing over results. When I let go of the need to control the timing, I found that opportunities appeared more effortlessly. It's like turning a compass towards true north. You may not see the needle moving visibly, but inside, your internal sense of direction aligns precisely where it needs to be. Trusting that each step is part of the process allows flow to unfold more smoothly. And during those moments of surrender, inspiration and opportunities tend to come more readily. Imagine how this method can radically elevate your experience by shifting your entire relationship with your desires. When you genuinely believe that what you seek is already unfolding and that you are a full participant in this grand process, resistance dissolves. You cease fighting against circumstances and start co-creating reality with a deep sense of assurance. This change doesn't happen overnight, but each deliberate act of shifting belief and feeling draws you closer to a life where abundance becomes a natural state, not a distant dream. And the more you practice this new way of engaging with your wishes, the more it becomes a vibrational magnet, attracting what you once thought was out of reach. Yet, despite understanding the importance of energy and manifestation, I realized there's an even deeper layer that many overlook: the importance of clarity combined with emotional precision. Imagine trying to navigate a dense fog without a compass. Your destination remains uncertain, and every step feels uncertain. But when that fog begins to lift, even slightly, objects in view become sharper, and your sense of direction solidifies. Clarifying your intentions is akin to piercing through that fog, bringing focus to what you genuinely desire. This means moving beyond vague wishes or generic hopes. It requires absolute specificity about the outcome you're committed to creating. I learned to craft detailed mental blueprints of my desired reality, including sensory details, the sounds, the textures, the feelings associated with realization. The sharper the picture, the more potent the feelings of having already arrived. Without clarity, a fragment of doubt or ambiguity can seep in, diluting your power to produce results. Building on this, however, lies the necessity of emotional consistency. We often think that visualizing a goal or repeating affirmations suffices, but the real catalyst springs from the vibrational tone we set with our inner feelings. Emotions are like the fuel that energizes intentions, turning mere thoughts into powerful magnets. I noticed that when I felt stress or impatience, my manifestations slowed down or even reversed. Conversely, when I mastered the art of evoking feelings of fulfillment, imagining the joy of success, the pride in achievement, the gratitude for already possessing what I sought, I infused my aspirations with irresistible energy. This emotional alignment acts as the ignition switch. It transforms passive wishing into an active, magnetic force. Think of it as tuning an instrument to just the right pitch. If your feelings resonate at a high, positive vibration, your requests are amplified and sent forth with clarity. Another insight that anchored my journey involved the importance of celebrating small victories as proof of alignment. Early on, I was guilty of waiting for giant breakthroughs before allowing myself to feel good about progress. But I discovered that acknowledging even modest signs of advancement, such as an unexpected opportunity, a kind word, or a moment of insight, cements my confidence and sustains the momentum. Celebrating these small wins is similar to watering a fragile plant. It encourages growth and fortifies your belief system. Each bit of positive feedback acts as confirmation that your energy is shifting in the right direction, which, in turn, accelerates manifestation. It's a cycle of reinforcement that elevates your state of being and deepens your trust in the process. Further, I came to understand the importance of monitoring and adjusting my mental environment. Our minds act as fertile ground. What we plant there, whether doubts or assurances, will eventually sprout into outward circumstances. I learned to become an observer of my thoughts, quickly spotting the ones rooted in scarcity or fear and gently replacing them with empowering narratives. Visualizing abundance on a subconscious level involves more than just mental effort. It requires cultivating an atmosphere of positivity internally. I made a conscious practice of replacing worry with appreciation, complaints with gratitude, and judgments with compassion. This ongoing internal housekeeping kept my emotional climate resilient, even amid external challenges. I found that, like a gardener tending to a delicate field, attentive care ensures that only purposeful, life-affirming thoughts flourish. Now, think about how this applies when obstacles seem insurmountable. In those moments, I recognize that my mental habits by me either resistance or flow. If I default to negative interpretations, seeing setbacks as confirmations that I'm not enough, I block the energy of creation. But when I consciously choose to focus on solutions, or even simply shift into a space of acceptance, I remove mental barriers that the previous habits might have erected. This subtle but powerful reorientation allows breakthroughs to emerge naturally rather than fighting against the current. It's comparable to steering a boat with gentle adjustments, small, deliberate turns that align movement downward a smooth, clear channel. External conditions might stay the same temporarily, but my internal state, my anchored sense of certainty, creates ripples that eventually alter my entire experience. In fact, I found that one of the most transformative aspects of mastery in this realm is patience paired with unwavering belief. When I learned to soften resistance and quiet the voice of doubt, I noticed my circumstances began to shift with less force and more grace. This isn't about forcing developments. It's about trusting the rhythm of your personal process. Think of it as a gardener waiting for seeds to sprout. Rushing only jeopardizes the growth. I trained myself to recognize signs of progress in subtle ways, spaces opening up for new ideas, doors nudging slightly ajar, and celebrated those without hesitation. Each moment of acceptance deepened my connection to what I was cultivating, and I started perceiving divine timing as an ally rather than an obstacle. The more I surrendered my attachment to immediate results, the more natural it felt for the right opportunities to align at precisely the right moment. All these insights started to piece together into a cohesive map of energy flow, where clarity, emotion, trust, and patience work harmoniously. Recognizing the power inherent in directing my inner state with intention allowed me to step out of the cycle of frustration and into a space of creative collaboration with life's abundant potential. Each discovery fueled my confidence. Each action rooted in alignment moved me closer to outcomes that once seemed distant fantasies. It's remarkable how a shift in internal focus can have such profound external effects. When I embraced this perspective fully, I began to see results that confirmed my new way of being, proof that deliberate, conscious states are the true architects of experience. There came a point in my journey where I realized that simply shifting thoughts and feelings wasn't enough. I needed to deepen the internal architecture of my beliefs. When I began peeling back the layers of conditioned programming, I discovered how deeply ingrained stories about lack and limitation had quietly taken root in my subconscious. These narratives function like silent architects, constantly designing my reality behind the scenes without my conscious awareness. I started paying close attention to the stories I told myself regularly about my worth, deservingness, and ability to attract wealth, and realized many of them echoed doubts that subtly sabotaged my efforts. Once I consciously identified these recurring mental messages, I could intervene by replacing them with empowering affirmations that directly challenged those old scripts. For example, instead of "I never seem to catch a break," I began saying, "I am capable of creating opportunities and receiving abundance." The act of rewriting internal stories was like rewiring the foundation of my mindset, which subsequently affected the entire structure of my perception and actions. Building on that, I also learned how crucial it was to reframe my entire relationship with setbacks and delays. If you see obstacles as signals of failure, it creates a cycle of frustration and resistance. But I shifted gears by viewing hurdles not as proof of being on the wrong path, but as essential tools for growth. Every challenge became an invitation to develop resilience and sharpen my clarity about my desired destination. These periods of difficulty took on a new meaning. They were like the forge where my intentions were strengthened through trial, not reasons to give up. This mindset transformed frustration into curiosity and patience. I grew more curious about what real lessons each difficulty held, understanding that they were merely temporary misalignments that could be corrected through increased focus and trust. This perspective allowed me to move through delays with less emotional turmoil and stronger determination. Another key insight involved recognizing how physical sensations can act as biological barometers of vibration. For a long time, I overlooked the power of my body's reactions. I thought mental affirmations alone held enough weight. However, I noticed that when I consciously tuned into bodily feelings, feeling tingles of excitement, a warm glow of gratitude, or a peaceful sense of surrender, I created an anchor that kept my thoughts aligned. It's similar to how athletes use physical cues to channel their mental state, focusing on breathing, posture, or muscle tension to induce confident energy. When I deliberately activated specific sensations associated with abundance, I observed a remarkable sharpening of my focus and a strengthening of positive momentum. For example, I'd sit quietly and imagine my desired outcome, then naturally notice a flutter in my chest or a calm steadiness in my breath. These subtle signals acted as feedback loops, reinforcing my mental and emotional states and making the desired feeling more accessible at any moment. Furthermore, I uncovered the significance of consistent, intentional language that elevates your inner dialogue throughout the day. Every thought, especially the repetitive ones, contributes to your vibrational pattern. I started paying attention to the subtle energy of my internal conversations and realized they often drifted into doubt or self-criticism without my noticing. By intentionally inserting phrases of affirmation, I gradually rewired my subconscious landscape. It's like tending a garden, carefully selecting each seed I plant, making sure it's aligned with the harvest I envisioned. Over time, these positive, uplifting statements built a mental fortress fortified against negativity. I also paid close attention to how I responded to external circumstances, whether I viewed setbacks as opportunities to adjust my approach or as confirmations of my limitations. Making tiny tweaks in daily language, replacing "I can't" with "I am in the process of," or "I don't have" with "I am attracting," created powerful ripples that transcended surface-level thoughts, embedding confidence into my subconscious. This process also revealed that the moments of silence between thoughts are fertile ground for cultivating feelings of abundance. When I learned to slow down and create space between mental chatter, I could deliberately choose which vibrations to focus on. It's like tuning a radio to a clear station. There are endless signals competing for attention, but you have the ability to select the one that plays your chosen frequency. In those quiet moments, I'd visualize vividly, breathe deliberately, and feel as if my dreams had already materialized. These practices became a sacred ritual, reinforcing my overall vibrational state. Over time, I noticed that my internal default shifted. Escape from anxiety and scarcity became instinctive, replaced by a sense of calm assurance. As I nurtured those states regularly, external manifestations started lining up more consistently, almost as if orchestrated by the unseen rhythm of aligned inner energy. Finally, through deep introspection, I discovered how resistance acts like static that distorts the signal of my true desires. Resistance could be subtle, perhaps a lingering doubt or a feeling that it's too good to be true, but it creates a barrier that prevents smooth flow. I learned that surrender isn't about giving up. Rather, it's a delicate dance of fully trusting the process without forcing it. It's akin to planting a seed and knowing that nature takes care of the sprout, not obsessively digging around the soil. When I genuinely relinquished attachment to specific outcomes, I became more receptive to unexpected forms of abundance, sometimes arriving in ways I never imagined. This openness invites new ideas, serendipitous meetings, or opportunities that seem to appear out of thin air. The act of releasing control entirely aids in dissolving mental blocks, which then clears the pathway for effortless manifestation. When I embraced this fluidity, I found myself in a state of more natural alignment, where abundance felt less like a distant goal and more like an inevitable consequence of shifting my inner landscape. Once I began paying attention to the subtle ways my subconscious holds onto old patterns, I realized there are layers of resistance woven into my daily habits that I hadn't fully acknowledged before. For example, I started noticing how sometimes I'd unconsciously dismiss opportunities, almost as if I didn't believe they could be real. It's like walking past a doorway, knowing something valuable is just beyond it, yet hesitating because part of me still questions whether I deserve to step through. Recognizing these hidden checkpoints was vital. I discovered that internal doubts often act like invisible barriers, blocking the flow of abundance without even realizing it. By actively observing my reactions during moments of potential breakthrough, I found patterns of self-sabotage sneaking in, tiny voices whispering that this won't last or you're dreaming too big. These mental echoes are surprisingly persistent and often operate beneath conscious awareness, making it easy to dismiss the significance of small victories. But I learned that acknowledging these subconscious hesitations and gently unraveling them can dramatically shift the entire energy field around my goals. It's like pulling weeds from the roots of a garden. If remnants of negativity remain, new growth will struggle to thrive. Gently, but persistently, I started clearing these mental obstructions, replacing them with affirmations that reinforced my capacity to receive without resistance. Building on this, I saw that attachment to specific outcomes sometimes causes friction rather than harmony. It's tempting to hold tightly to a particular vision, clinging to a fixed idea of how money must arrive or what a successful life should look like. However, this insistence creates friction, like trying to steer a boat with a clenched fist instead of an open hand. I discovered that through gentle detachment, I could maintain my focus on my larger purpose without obsessively controlling every detail. This approach fosters a sense of spaciousness, allowing unexpected doors to open in ways I never anticipated. Imagine planting a seed and releasing your attachment to its exact sprout. You nurture the soil and trust the process, knowing that sprouting will happen in its own perfect time and form. Consider how patterns of tension and impatience can act like static noise disrupting clear signals of abundance. When I felt anxious about late payments or uncertain prospects, I realized that internal unrest often magnifies the delay, making it seem longer or more daunting. I found that breathing deeply, softening the tension in my muscles, and shifting my focus to gratitude for the resources already available significantly reduced that internal noise. It's akin to tuning a radio to a station free of interference. Clarity emerges not by fighting static, but by adjusting to a frequency of calm clarity. As I cultivated peace, I noticed my ideas came more freely and opportunities aligned more effortlessly. It became clear that internal serenity is not just a luxury. It's a strategic advantage in creating momentum. Further, I experienced how mental stories about scarcity can persist even after external circumstances improve. The mind often clings to old fears as if their truth etched in stone, making it difficult to fully embrace new levels of prosperity. To change this, I began consciously rewriting those stories through visualization and emotional reprogramming. It's like editing a script in a film, changing the dialogue from doubt to confidence, from lack to abundance. When I immersed myself in scenes where I already had what I desired, feeling the emotions of gratitude and satisfaction deeply, I rewired my subconscious to accept new possibilities. Over time, this process started to alter my baseline beliefs. What once felt foreign now felt natural. The internal shift was palpable. Suddenly, larger opportunities felt accessible, almost inevitable. Meanwhile, I learned that celebrating progress, however small, acts as a powerful catalyst for further alignment. Each time I acknowledged a subtle sign that I was moving closer, an inspired idea, a helpful chance encounter, I reinforced the feeling of embodying my new reality. It's like filling a container with water, little by little, until it's overflowing. Recognizing these moments of flow keeps the energy charged and strengthens my confidence in the unfolding process. It's easy to overlook the significance of these minor milestones when caught up in longing for huge breakthroughs, but cultivating appreciation for incremental steps nurtures resilience. That gentle acknowledgement sustains momentum during challenging times, making the journey feel less like a test and more like a natural unfolding. Finally, I saw that surrender isn't passive resignation. Rather, it's a dynamic state where we stop forcing the outcome and start trusting the timing and guidance that come from a deeper, intuitive knowing. It's like planting a seed and then choosing to watch, rather than dig up the soil every few hours, obsessing over whether roots are forming. Surrender brings a calm confidence that what's meant for you is already being coordinated behind the scenes. When I stopped resisting the flow, stopped trying to dictate every turn, I noticed how effortlessly doors swung open and new avenues revealed themselves. It's similar to dropping rocks from a boat's wake. Once you relinquish control, you create space for clear, direct movement. This shift of giving up struggle in favor of trust transforms the energy, allowing outcomes to arrive more smoothly and swiftly. As I continued practicing this deep inner alignment, I realized that the art lies in consistently recalibrating. Each moment of release, each conscious choice to feel grateful, is like fine-tuning a musical instrument for perfect harmony. The result? A life that moves with the rhythm of your elevated vibration, where abundance is no longer a distant dream, but your natural state, unfolding with grace and ease. Once I began to observe my mental environment with a sharper eye, I understood that the subconscious mind often acts like a hidden architect, quietly laying down blueprints based on repeated patterns and core beliefs. These mental patterns can operate in the background for years, subtly steering experiences, perceptions, and reactions without my conscious permission. I discovered that many of these deep-seated beliefs are formed early in life, often remnants of childhood conditioning or past disappointments, and they can linger like invisible chains, restraining my capacity to attract prosperity. To truly redefine my manifestations, I needed to confront and dismantle these mental structures. It wasn't enough to simply swap out a thought here and there. I had to excavate and replace entire belief frameworks that had become second nature. This process required deliberate awareness and consistent effort, like excavating old roots so new growth can take hold. Engaging in this internal excavation proved transformative. I began to see that certain stories I told myself about being unlucky, unworthy, or destined to struggle were not just words but energetic circuits that carried weight and activated resistance. As I faced these stories directly, I learned to challenge their validity. For example, I questioned statements like, "I never have enough," by asking, "Is that truly the case? Where is proof of abundance in my life right now?" Shifting my perspective from acknowledgement of lack to recognition of what's already present created a dynamic shift in my emotional state. By doing so, I tapped into a wellspring of gratitude, which acted as a powerful magnet attracting similar frequencies. When I focused on abundance already present, I felt a surge of openness, like a rising tide that lifts all ships, not just the one I was sailing, but everyone I knew. This practice opened my eyes to the endless opportunities that were just waiting for my recognition. Now, consider how this internal work influences the energy I broadcast beyond thought. When I eliminated the mental clutter rooted in limiting beliefs, I began to experience a shift in my physical posture and presence. I noticed that I squared my shoulders with confidence, held my chin higher, and moved more deliberately. These physical cues reinforced my mental and emotional states, creating a feedback loop that further amplified my frequency of abundance. What's fascinating is that external behavior often reflects internal evolution, and this reciprocity accelerates the process of manifestation. In fact, I found that simply altering my posture physically, standing tall, relaxing my shoulders, and breathing deeply, can instantaneously enhance my inner sense of worthiness. It's like flipping a switch. The act of embodying confidence sends a new signal out into the environment, inviting in different kinds of interactions and opportunities. Building on this, I came to understand that the sensations we associate with success and abundance are like portals that can be consciously activated. I started experimenting with focusing on physical feelings of accomplishment, like a warm glow in the chest or a sense of expansion in the lungs, and using those sensations as anchors. This approach isn't just about imagining a goal. It's about entering states of being that make those goals feel accessible and real in the present moment. When I mastered this ability, I could evoke feelings associated with wealth and happiness amidst daily routines, regardless of external conditions. It's akin to tuning into a frequency that automatically draws similar vibrations into harmony. Each time I deliberately cultivated sensations of gratitude or achievement, I reinforced my vibrational blueprint, creating a solid foundation upon which these experiences could manifest more rapidly. At the core of this process is a fundamental shift in how I respond to setbacks. Instead of perceiving obstacles as signs of personal failure or proof that I am destined to suffer, I began viewing them as opportunities for deeper learning and redirection. For instance, if a project didn't turn out as expected, I would ask myself what lesson was embedded in that moment, not what's wrong with me. This mindset turned frustration into curiosity and diminishment into possibility. By reframing difficulties in this way, seeing them as vital chapters in my growth, I kept my energy light and receptive. This mental shift is essential. Obstacles lose their power to induce disappointment when approached as teachers rather than enemies. When I changed my perspective, I noticed that what once seemed like dead ends now opened into new pathways filled with potential. It's as if each challenge clears a space that allows fresh ideas and opportunities to emerge more plainly into view. Furthermore, I saw that patience acts as a silent ally in this ongoing process. Cultivating a calm patience helps to dissolve the urge to rush outcomes, an impulse that often stems from anxiety about time and results. I began to adopt a gentle trust that my efforts, combined with aligned emotions, create a bubbling current that influences my life's landscape. When I no longer tighten my grip, clutching onto desired results or obsessing over exact timelines, I allow space for things to unfold naturally. This, letting go, isn't passive. It's an active practice of surrendering resistance and trusting that everything is moving perfectly, even if I cannot see it with my physical eyes. When I surrender the need to control every aspect, I free myself from struggle, and I notice that synchronistic events arrive with ease. The art is in remembering I am an active participant, yet also a willing receiver, prepared to accept what's coming with gratitude and openness. In this state of openness, I'm empowered to move forward without attaching my self-worth to external validation. I start focusing instead on internal consistency, keeping my thoughts aligned and my emotional state uplifted. This focus becomes a daily ritual, a commitment to nurture my internal environment as carefully as I would a precious garden. Over time, this discipline enhances my capacity to stay centered amid external chaos, knowing that the core of abundance is always within reach when I tend to my inner landscape with care and attention. When I carry this awareness into every moment, my actions are more inspired, my decisions clearer, and my energy more resilient. It's as if I've learned to weave an unbreakable thread throughout each day, a thread of trust, confidence, and unwavering belief that I am deserving of and aligned with a limitless flow of prosperity. Reflecting on this journey so far, I realize how deeply intertwined the threads of perception, emotion, and belief truly are. All these elements act as a symphony, each note contributing to an overall resonance that shapes the reality I experience. When I began to notice the subtle but persistent ways my internal attitude colored my external circumstances, it became clear that transformation isn't simply about isolated thoughts or isolated feelings. It's about cultivating a harmonious vibration that infiltrates every layer of consciousness. These ideas have woven themselves into a tapestry I carry every day, an intricate pattern where confidence shines through every decision, where gratitude spills over naturally, coloring perceptions with possibility. Nothing is static in this dance. Circumstances are fluid, and shifts occur in the invisible realm long before they materialize outwardly. It's like tending to a garden unseen, preparing the soil, nourishing the roots, and imagining the blooms long before their petals open. Each deliberate act of alignment prepares the ground for new life to sprout. As I nurture consistent states of mind and emotion, I notice that the horizon I once thought was distant begins to inch closer, as if summoned by focused intention. These unseen currents have a way of drawing everything into place long before I witness evidence of change with my senses. That realization instills a quiet confidence, a knowing that the foundation I am strengthening inside is what ultimately shapes every external detail. What's fascinating is that these layers of understanding are not separate but converge into a single, powerful truth. The manner in which I choose to engage with the world, how I interpret setbacks and miracles alike, directly influences the unfolding of each moment. When I loosen the grip of doubt and instead lean into trust, I unlock a space within that allows for spontaneous harmony. It's as if I'm learning to play an instrument without forcing the sound, simply aligning my vibrations so that a natural melody emerges. This harmony, once established, acts as a magnet, pulling toward me opportunities that once seemed distant or impossible. The act of refinement becomes more intuitive, a gentle dance where internal shifts effortlessly translate into external manifestations. The realization that our habitual focus dictates the magnetic field we generate is profound, especially considering how easily our minds can veer into familiar patterns of negativity. Addressing this, I began to see the importance of consciously choosing a state of mind that magnifies the qualities I wish to cultivate, not as a distant aspiration, but as a daily renewal, a deliberate act of returning my attention to what feels good, what feels right, what I truly desire. This continuous calibration starts to redefine the internal landscape from where all experiences flow. Like sculpting a piece of clay, every small adjustment molds the larger form into a reflection of authenticity and abundance. With each intentional realignment, I step closer to a reality sculpted by conviction rather than doubt. Within this framework, the notion of patience takes on a new dimension. It isn't about passive waiting, but about trusting in the unseen currents and honoring the natural timing of things. I've learned to accept that true alignment isn't measured by immediate results, but by the strength of conviction I build within. As I allow space for situations to unfold without forcing, I create a fertile ground where unexpected inspiration and opportunities can flourish. It's as if I've relinquished some of the heavy burden of control and invited a more effortless flow. This state of openness, built on quiet certainty, acts like a compass guiding me through the intricate web of possibilities, leading me closer to experiences that resonate deeply with my core desires. Ultimately, what becomes clear is that arriving at this level of harmony requires both discipline and surrender in equal measure. One cannot sustain sustained transformation by solely focusing on effort or solely on letting go. It's an internal dialogue, a balancing act, that shapes the way I interact with my ambitions. Every moment of grounded presence, every gentle shift toward gratitude, serves as a building block that steadily elevates vibration. It's a subtle but relentless refining of the way I relate to what I wish to manifest, transforming it from a distant hope into a vibrant certainty. In this space of deep alignment, every detail aligns more effortlessly. Every step becomes less about forcing and more about allowing. My senses heighten, perceptions sharpen, and clarity blossoms. I see opportunities swirling around me, sometimes disguised in familiar forms, other times appearing in unexpected packages, and I recognize the power I hold to bring these pieces together. It's a process that deepens, a cycle that feeds itself, gradually dissolving doubts and reinforcing the conviction that I am the architect of my reality. As these realizations settle in, I know that the next phase awaits. One where this understanding naturally culminates into manifesting results that reflect my deepest intentions, all born from a cultivated state of harmony within. As I reflect on everything I've learned, it's clear that the mastery of genuine manifestation begins with unshakable alignment from within. It's not simply about wishing or visualizing in fleeting moments, but cultivating a deep, unwavering conviction that what I desire is already being woven into my life's fabric. This realization shifted my approach from a mindset of pleading and scarcity to one of confident trust, anchored in a feeling of already having received. When I started embodying that abundant sense, I noticed a profound shift in how circumstances responded to me. The external became a mirror of my inner state, intensifying my awareness that I was co-creating every experience through deliberate choices of thought and emotion. Living with this clarity opened my eyes to subtle signs, gentle nudges that had always been present but overlooked, until I learned to interpret them differently. Small moments of grace, seemingly insignificant, turned out to be silent confirmations that my vibrational harmony was shifting. I began to see life as a finely tuned dialogue, where internal currents guide external events. With each conscious effort to stay present and cultivate appreciation, I tuned into a more fluid, harmonious flow. That sense of surrender, the kind that invites rather than demands, became my greatest ally. It calmed the restless mind and created room for intuitive guidance to emerge, gently steering me toward paths that felt aligned with my highest good. The most compelling insight I carry is how crucial it is to accept that transformation isn't about a single awakening, but a gentle, continuous evolution. Every moment offers an opportunity for renewal, for resetting my focus on what I wish to bring forth. It's about viewing my inner landscape as fertile ground where beliefs, feelings, and thoughts intertwine to shape what manifests in my world. When I nurture compassion toward myself and allow space for growth, I ignite a presence that naturally pulls meaningful unfoldings into view. Each step forward is reinforced not by struggle, but by a quiet confidence that things are unfolding in perfect timing, even when I can't yet see the full picture. Patience becomes an act of trust, trust in my capacity to align my inner state and, ultimately, to bring my intentions into form. What I have discovered is that persistent attention to feelings of gratitude and ease rewires the sense of what's possible. The lighter I feel about the outcome, the more seamlessly I connect with that effortless rhythm of creation. I learn to release attachment to immediate results, recognizing that the mind often overestimates the importance of control. Instead, I embrace openness to surprises, aware that divine orchestration involves factors beyond my understanding. This surrender doesn't diminish my agency, it exponentially enhances it. Because true power lies in holding a vision gently but firmly, trusting that my intentions will reveal themselves in their perfect timing and manner. In this dance of internal shifts and external reflections, I see a profound truth. The act of engaging with desires is a reflection of my relationship with myself. It reminds me that I am inherently deserving of abundance, not because I earn it through effort, but because it is woven into the fabric of my true nature. When I align my inner state with the vibrational frequency of abundance, I become a magnet for the richness that life constantly offers. It's as if, once I let go of resistance and invite genuine trust, everything softens into harmony. I realize that creating with patience and love clears the way for manifestations to arrive gracefully, often in forms I could never have anticipated. So now, I move through each day with a renewed sense of wonder and confidence, knowing that I am precisely where I need to be in my journey. Every thought, feeling, and act is a step toward a fuller realization of what I truly deserve. My role isn't to force or fabricate outcomes, but to remain centered in a state of receptive faith, believing that, in divine timing, my desires will naturally hear their calling and come into view. That understanding roots me in a peaceful confidence, reminding me that I am actively participating in a magnificent dance of creation, one that unfolds beautifully when I align with it fully, with patience, gratitude, and unwavering trust.